Hello, everyone. So this one is going to be about LGSs and uh, mistakes I've seen LGSs make. I did a sort of ish video about this, but it was about one LGS specifically, and I think just move the light there. And I think that that's probably the wrong approach to do in this situation. I think it's better to advise um, and sort of look at ways of improving the situation rather than making them worse. So, LGSs or local game stores are basically organizations, usually independently run. Sometimes they are run by big, massive conglomerates. Other times they are run by, mom and pop style shops. And the way that they're run, the finances, the individual sort of self-related products, everything like that will all be different depending on the business, how they run it, what they're willing to sell things for, what the markup is, and lots of things like that. And that makes every LGS obviously very different. But there are some key mistakes that I've seen LGSs make over and over again. And one of those big mistakes is they charge per table per hour. That one gets people consistently to not participate, not visit, not enjoy going to this LGS. And multiple have done it. We've actually got 2 or 3 instances where I live where that has led to either financial troubles or stability troubles or reputational troubles or just outright closing down. One of those is no longer here because of this practice, and it's a shame because these businesses, they are often born of passion. They're often born of an attempt to fill a market that is not being filled, and a lot of them are just gamers who want to do something good for the community. Turned that light down a bit because turned it off because it was a bit much. So if the lighting looks a bit different, that's why. There's a lot of good things that you can do as a business, and one of those big things is you look after your customers, obviously. And companies that do look after their customers and do care for their customers and go the extra mile to actually support them will go far. I've had one good business and one bad business say, oh, well, you're basically on our doorstep. Why don't we just drop off your package here, save on shipping, save on time? We'll take multiple buses if we have to drop off your package. That's really great customer service. But from a perspective of sustainability, I don't think that's sustainable. Um, you can't have a dedicated courier that delivers your packages uh, in hand, in person, the same day or the next day. And that it comes with risks. If it's one or two, if they're like literally on your doorstep, sure, why not? But that as a business model will not be sustainable. You cannot have a courier service for your products, and it's literally the role of Royal Mail and UPS and all of these other companies to fulfill that courier role. So if you're spending all of your time not at the store improving it or doing customer service stuff, which I guess this kind of is customer service stuff, um, if you're instead spending your time delivering packages all day, every day. Uh, Maybe something's not right there. Another one is the cafe service. It goes so wrong so quick. And I understand the temptation to move into it because uh, card games, board games, all of these things are very slow selling often. And getting enough butts on seats, to be quite frank, is really hard. And getting people in for events, 50, £60 events, £30, whatever it is, getting people to sit down and go at your event is going to be expensive. It's going to be time consuming. You're not going to get people in as easily. I've seen a huge number of businesses in this area promote and promote and promote just to get like maybe a handful more people in. And unfortunately, because of how, from what I've seen, sort of spreadsheet wise before, the margin for each product that they are trying to push, say for example a precon or whatever, say Wizards sells the precon for uh, an MSRP to the business. They then have to try and balance, like do a balancing act effectively, and make it so that that is profitable, like the business does, I mean. And in the end, it usually doesn't work. Usually, a lot of businesses end up taking, from what I've seen, very minimal profits from these events. So it's sort of tricky, and a lot of the time as well, they end up being stuck with draft boxes or whatever the equivalent of, or overstock of packs or whatever. Uh, it's unfortunate, and I think a lesson to take from it is uh, events are great. They get butts on seats. They justify everything, maybe psychologically, or this is why we're doing this. But I don't think necessarily that they are good for business overall. Uh, they are too unpredictable, and maybe you'll make a lot of money. Maybe you'll get people doing repeat drafts over and over again, coming into your business and doing drafts over and over. I was quite fond of drafts back in the day, before 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 everything became very expensive. And like I said, having a an overstock of a product that is specific and niche is kind of nasty for business, especially if it is like a hyper specific one. Now, that isn't to say I don't think you should do events full stop ever, you know, but it means that you've got to do a lot more work for promoting these events and seeing if your competition is promoting these events too. And if they are, well, you can either choose to compete or concede. And if you compete, you may lose money. You may end up with an overstock of product that you cannot shift. If you concede, then you may end up missing out on a big opportunity. So in general, it's expensive. It's a risky, risky game that you're playing when you're doing all of this stuff. So bear that in mind. Another big one is communication. When you don't communicate properly with the customer, when you don't let them know about delays, when you don't let them know what is going on, um, whether or not an event is on or cancelled, then that's a problem. And it becomes a compounding problem as well because that damages your reputation. So if you don't actually go out there and tell people the information they need to know in a timely manner, like for example, when there's been a rule change or whether or not we're going to go with this format instead of that format, or whether or not there's a, which ban list we're going with, if you're in the case of Yu-Gi-Oh! Or whatever. Uh, this is all stuff that I've seen, the communication issues just compound. And in the end, you end up with a customer base that doesn't trust you anymore, doesn't want to go to your store anymore. As I mentioned before, the massive, massive thing is charging per table per hour. It's killed businesses. It's the most important one that I think you can take, because it's very easy to look at your spreadsheet and say, right, well, we've got this cost, we're paying this staff member, we're paying for this much product. We'll use the magic divide button. We'll divide it and we'll push that cost directly onto the customer. That is not going to work. The customer is going to say, screw this, I'm going somewhere else. And indeed, in my local scene, that is what is happening to one of the businesses. And they were already struggling, and it sucks. It's not gonna end well for them, because losing your customers, bleeding customers, losing what made you unique is literally suicide for your business. On the topic of customers, refusing to get or create an online presence is suicide. If you choose, or if you are contractually obligated to not have an online store or presence, you are missing out on half of your sales, if not more. And even if it's a little Facebook store you sell to pick up or whatever, having some sort of presence online in the 21st century is necessary. And even if you're selling through instant messaging, through uh, through Messenger or something like that, or Instagram or something like that, that's important. And if you're not doing that, you are going to kill your business. Circling back to if you're running a cafe on the side, if you are doing this and you don't have licenses and you don't have the ability to maintain training and all of these things for the services that you are providing, then you are breaking the law. Quite frankly, it's literally that simple. In most instances, you need a food and hygiene license, and you need licenses for the property, inspections, food safety, at least in the UK, and all of these things. If you're not sort of going for that, if you're not able to keep those up, then don't provide the service. You will end up in trouble. And again, we've seen businesses nearby who've tried the cafe thing and had success. We've seen other businesses that have not had success and end up destroying themselves and closing up shop. It's sad, but it is what it is. Another one is you have to make sure that you are standing your ground firm, not against other businesses, but you are making sure that you are, maintaining an identity, maintaining a presence, uh, becoming a big happy friendship group of businesses who are all competing. I don't think is going to work. we're not in Happy Rainbow Land, unfortunately. I would love to be in Equestria, in the MLP world, but we're not there. We are in a situation where uh, profits and margins are tight. Customers are limited. Apologies, I just had to sneeze. And there is a kind of cutthroat mentality amongst people, especially now. There are less customers going to stores than there was before. Way less, I think. Just from what I've seen, people are celebrating when they've got a handful of people in store, and that's really like it's really sad to see, but it's understandable. We're all going through a absolute financial recession. We're all going through hardship. The first thing to go is the gaming stuff. Ironically for me, being a uni student who had to make money stretch very, very far, I on the money that I'm on, I'm thinking, whoa, I could go for 2 gaming days, but not much more than that. Um, it's something that you've got to bear in mind, though, when you are thinking about profits and running a business, and when you're thinking about doing all of these things. I think you have to really bear in mind what you're actually getting into. And nobody thinks about the culture. Nobody thinks about how things should be. Nobody thinks about the way that you want your customers to act. Well, very few people do anyway. And that is fatal to your business. The kind of clientele, the kind of people that you accept into the business, and whether that's staff or customers, has a massive impact on everything. And we will see everything just go to hell very quickly if you don't control the people who are coming in. And I don't mean just saying like turn people away for immutable characteristics they can't control. You can't be judging people for sexuality, race, all of these things. It is literally against the law. But I am saying you can't have thieves in your store. Obvious, really obvious, but it's not obvious to some people because there are stores out there that do allow repeat offenders. You can't have sex offenders, on that note, in your store. If you're going to have kids there, you can't have that kind of shit going around. You can't have people with grey backgrounds. You can't have people who are attacking people. I've had that in LGSes around me. You can't have the police at the door every 5 minutes. You can't do all of these things and allow all of these things. You have to care about who is coming in, what their not necessarily what their background is. You don't have to like screen them, but if they've got a reputation, just sort of be like, don't really trust that one. Which I guess brings us on to the next point, and this isn't in any specific order, but rumors. Yeah, rumors are what humans do. They're the thing that keeps human society ticking over. Uh, but rumors on their own are kind of like valueless. They're not really useful. Reputation, though, is everything. And the reputation of your customers, if they are, known bad actors, kick them out. It's not lost profit. It's more lost profit if you allow them in and they take something from another customer. They just take a handful of cards off the desk and they steal them. Seen that before. It's more lost profit if people get the vibe as I've had before, where it's like, well, nothing I have here is safe. And if I go to the toilet and I leave my cards here, I leave my bag and I put it under the desk, and I don't have somebody to watch it, my stuff's going to get taken. And that to some of you might seem, well, yeah, of course it's going to get taken. But you want to know that the people around you are safe and that your goods are safe and that, everybody is going to act properly. And if you don't care about that at all, well, go to any LGS at all, pay the £5 table fee per hour, do whatever you want to do. Because a person like that who doesn't care about this stuff has more money than sense and, literally does not care about culture and, the values of the LGS. That kind of person is an everywhere person. They can just go wherever they want. They don't have to care. They don't have to be bothered. And, that's fine. If that's you, that's fine. But I'm giving advice to the people who actually want to listen and want to, actually participate in these cultures on more than a sort of superficial level and are interested in how these systems work. Now, there's an LGS as well that I've experienced uh, where the culture violently shifted from, one way or another. Um, it was at first a very normal, casual kind of place. Then it became hyper competitive. And when it became hyper competitive, it kind of clamshelled shut and no longer wanted to kind of cater to like lower income customers, I guess you would say. And the result of that was um, people would come at the stall, they'd look around, they'd find nothing for them, and they'd leave. And they'd go, huh, sales are down. That sucks. They wouldn't ever reflect on what they'd done wrong. They wouldn't ever reflect on the fact that they had caused this behavior. They'd caused, people to look at the situation and go, well, they're expensive. They're only selling by the booster box. They're only catering to customers who have a huge amount of money. Well, that's not me. I'm out. And as a customer who has been in that situation before and is in that situation now, yeah, I agree with those people. Like, screw those businesses that are overcharging or are only selling the premium version of the product because, big number go up always. And I think as advice, you have to just cater for as many people as possible. Which brings me on to what I think will be sort of like a bigger point in itself. Whales. Let me get a sip of water before I get onto this one. Now, whales are legendary. Within the community, everybody wants to, or at least like within LGSs, everybody wants to cultivate whales and everybody wants to catch whales. Everybody wants to be the whale supplier for TCG goods and board games and all of these things. Unfortunately, though, what people don't realize is that it's a double-edged sword. A person who comes in and spends ridiculous amounts of money to try and get product will have an effect on many things. First one being the culture of the area, like of your game space, and whales will be seen as not legendary creatures. They will be seen as overspenders. They'll be seen as the person who wins every tournament because he's paid to win every tournament. They will be seen as the person who takes everything from everybody, and we'll just walk up to a binder and go, I'll buy that, buy that, buy that, buy that, buy that, reserve that for me, please. And unfortunately, the psychological profile for whales is not a good one. They're either obsessive compulsive, or they are psychologically gamblers. And what I mean is like pathologically gamblers, I guess. And those kinds of people are really unstable in a community. But if they are paying your rent, if they are keeping the lights on, you are more likely to forgive anything that they do, including stealing, including taking things that is, beyond their fair share, including giving them first dibs on products. Now, another term for whale, more friendly term perhaps, is a person who is a VIP customer. And VIP customers, you usually have to do a lot more to keep them there, and give them more freebies and give them more value for their money than anybody else. Because, quite simply, again, these people are going to be paying your rent if you cultivate a whale, if you attract a whale. And that changes your incentives, that changes you as a business owner. So yes, they are fantastic because they mean that in one sense they will bridge a gap, but in another sense they are only going to make your life harder. They're going to make it so that you are having to pay a premium to get the product now, and pay distributors perhaps the markup for the price, which means overall less profit for you. And when you've got enough whales, you now no longer have to focus excuse me, you now no longer have to focus on the smaller customers who are spending £10, £15, £30, £40, and £90. Smaller customers who are just spending a bit of money. And your attitude will flip against those customers. You'll say, well, why would I ever cater to them when I've got this big this big white whale who's walking into my store, usually charging in, demanding or asking perhaps if they're a polite whale, and they're saying, well, can I spend 1,500, or I've got 1,500 or whatever, 2,000, 3,000, whatever the money is. There's a truly absurd amount of money within Wales. I'd like to spend this in your store. Give me everything you got. Well, their intentions are whatever. Their intentions are their intentions, I guess, but you will change your psychology. You will change your attitudes. You will change your behaviors. You will change your interest, because that is how human psychology works. As soon as opportunity is presented, people will think, oh my God, yes, I'll jump at that. Don't miss out on your chance. Don't miss out on your ability to sort of actually make a decent bit of money. That's the attitude most people will have. Unfortunately, though, this is not good. Generally speaking, anyway, if you're overly catering to the whales, you'll kill your business, because the whale is a mythical creature, so to speak. It appears and it disappears. It sort of swims in and it swims out, it goes somewhere else, and you're hoping to reattract them. Oh, look how good I treat you. Look at all of the extra miles and the customer service and the 1 day tracked delivery I paid for and all of this kind of thing. You're hoping that your customer service made them feel special, but it didn't, more than likely, because everybody was treating them special. Because they're throwing fucking money at the situation. And unlimited amounts of it. And in the end, like, it doesn't make a difference. You don't matter to the whale. The whale just gets what it wants. It gets what it needs to sustain its addiction. And there are very pleasant whales. There are lovely whales out there. Very gentle creatures, these whales. But they can be aggressive. They can be everything that a human can be. They just have a frick load of money to throw at the situation. And demands that you have to meet if you want to keep the lights on, if you want an easy life. In other words, the relationship that you have with these whales will become much more like a mafia situation. You are beholden to them. You are their sort of subject because a lot of them know that they are helping you out. And they will expect discounts. They will expect special rates a lot of the time. They will expect that you will cater to them directly and pick them first as the person who gets the most product. Which leads us on to the next point as well. Scalpers. Scalpers and whales, not necessarily the same beasts. I would say whales are gentle creatures that consume a lot of food and they're big and kind of scary. While scalpers are more like great white sharks. You never know when they're going to essentially strike a product line and make the value insanely high. Usually led by the king shark himself, who you know who he is. He's big enough that everybody knows who he is. When a product line is selected or chosen or picked out as prey, to use in nature terms, you end up in a situation where everybody is sort of panicking and freaking out about how are we going to kind of deal with these scalpers? How are we going to deal with the people who are taking all of the product away from my customers? And the solution so far has been, at least up until like last month or something like that, was we don't care. Just buy the product, buy as much as you can. And oh, look, we can't cater to our customers anymore. Oh, our customers are leaving. Oh, never mind. That was the solution up until last month. When I think Walmart and a couple of smaller businesses, they started breaking the seals on the product as they sold them, which meant that resale rates were zero. You could not resell those products. It was no longer possible. At least not at a profit anyway. You could sell the booster packs if you wanted to, and the accessories, but you could no longer sell, say, a Pokemon ETB for full price. And that solution's worked. But other companies don't want to do that. I've seen one company around here where I live, they have met the problem halfway. They've said, okay, we are struggling to get the product. We're getting some, but we're not going to sell for the market price. It's nonsense. We are going to sell for an in the middle price. So an ETB is £45. The online price is, I don't know, depends on the ETB. It massively varies. The market price varies a lot. and they meet in the middle and say, okay, we've got access to this product, we're selling it for 60. That's a fair compromise. Yes, it's above MSRP. Yes, it's kind of expensive, but they've got the product that you want. They've got the product that you need available to you for a price that's reasonable. And that's fine. Even if they said 70, I think 70 for an ETB is a little bit expensive personally, but 60 is fine. It's a fine price. And if they went 65, that would have been fine as well. So there's options for how you can like remain profitable and not rip your customers off, I think. Um, and I think that's important. There is a balance to be made. If your customers are just going to take the product and flip it, and it encourages bad behavior, because this is a way broader kind of topic than what would normally be covered in a lot of videos and stuff. But if the attitude of your customer base, because you do care about your customer base as a company that is trading and working with customers and things like that, you care about the attitudes, you care about the intentions, you care about what they're doing with the product. You can't control it, but you care about it. If they're just going online and flipping it, then all you are is a supplier. If it isn't going back into the local community and it isn't going to be used in your stores for events, for tournaments, for things like that, then you're gonna not be profitable for very long. And as we already mentioned, there is right now a significant drop off in the number of people who are going to tournaments because they're expensive. That's just from looking at local stats and the going to on Facebook, like on the Facebook notification thing. It's way down. Like it looks like it's way down. Probably overall for the whole thing, because we're going through multiple things at the same time. Multiple things can be true at the same time. We're going through a TCG boom. We're going through a board game boom. We're going through all of these things. Meanwhile, nobody can afford to do it. So it's a tricky situation, and navigating it is going to be more and more difficult as time goes on. But the intention of the product, or why what people are doing with it, I think kind of matters. And again, it's not something you can control, but it's something that's important to bear in mind. So that is something that I think a lot of local companies, a lot of businesses, a lot of LGSes in general, whether they are connected to a larger conglomerate or not, need to bear in mind that there is the financial incentive doesn't make sense if all of the pieces don't fit. That if there isn't an economy of, you're making the sets available and you're making the cards available and you're then selling them at a reasonable price, then you will get people coming into your store and saying, oh yeah, I'm going to test out my new deck. And whether it's a £5 commission for a normal event or £6 or whatever, £7, £8, or it's a tournament that they're trying their hand at. So it's like 15, 16 plus pounds, or something bigger, like a pre-release. You have to make sure that you are going to be profitable. And the only way to do that is to deny, in my opinion, the urge to just outright sell, blindly sell. So like exposing yourself to risk from scalpers, or to sell to whales, and exclusively whales. And there is one business I know of that almost really does almost exclusively sell to Wales. Actually, two I know of. It's almost exclusively sell to Wales. I already talked about one business that only sells booster pack product as um, as booster boxes. That's insane. Like that's for a Yu-Gi-Oh set. That's like £60. Maybe a little bit less. For MTG, that's like if we're talking about the new Lord of the Rings set, that's £200 plus. They would obviously add their markup as well, because I think MSRP of that set is going to be 200 and something, so they'd make it 230 probably, or 220, to justify the fact that they've got low volumes of the product. Because again, and this is something that I could talk about for ages. Uh, MTG is following the Pokemon model, and they are making it so their products are deliberately scarce. Pokemon just doesn't exist. It's just there's no money. There's no way of making money now. So that's again a topic for another day. But there is no product available to sell, so there's no product available to give to your customers. Very very rare anyway, and distributors are selling it at the markup. So the kind of economy, like if you think about it in a sort of local sense of how you sell your product to customers, how they open the product, they use the product, they come back. It's not working for many of these games. It's too expensive, and you can't provide what they want. Therefore, you lose. So uh, it becomes a really challenging kind of time. And I wouldn't want to have an LGS right now. Uh, I'm not saying if you do have one, it's all screwed and it's doom and everything like that. It all depends on your customer base. It all depends what you're into. It all depends on what you're backing. It all depends on the product that you can actually get. And a lot of LGSs are really, really successful around here. Like, really successful. More successful than I could possibly ever imagine. And you could possibly ever imagine. Like, daily events, weekly tournaments, all of these kinds of things. A lot of them are doing really, really well, and your business could be doing exactly the same. But I think there is a lot of risk, and it isn't as simple now. This kind of concluding, as Rudy says, so we're halfway there, halfway through the video. Um, it's not as simple now as it used to be. I think it used to be distributor sells you product, you sell product, customer opens product. They either come back or they don't. Now you need the customer to come back. You need them there. And if they don't come back, your business is screwed. Uh, you need feet on ground. You need butts on seats. You need people there. And it becomes extremely tempting to pass your costs on to the customer because, as I say with the cafe thing, as I say with the sitting down, the sitting charge for customers, because you want to charge for a premium service, right? Well, sitting isn't a premium service. It doesn't work. It's untenable, so to speak, and you'll regret it. I think a lot of businesses do regret a lot of these decisions, and I've seen one go bust because of these decisions. Final one here is, or one of the final ones. If I can think of more, I'll just keep going. I guess just just dump it all out. Um, you have to stock the right product. There's no point in stocking nothing but sorcery. Um, most people don't know what sorcery is, unless you're doing demo days. That would be fantastic. There's no point in stocking just Keyforge. There's no point in stocking just Riftbound. If you're a physical store, you need a sort of sampler of everything and drips and drabs of everything. Try out new games, especially low risk games. Like I would say, if you can get it, Shardbugs would be a good one. And if you can afford the hit, or you want to do it yourself, have a person dedicated to actually demoing these games for people. Teach people how to play Keyforge. Teach people how to play Lorcana, Pokemon. Maybe not Pokemon, but you know. Um, Pokemon would be a good one if we could get it. Teach people how to do these things, play these games. The reason I am into war games now, the reason I am into and love Warhammer's universe, not necessarily the game, but I love its universe and its miniatures, is because I went through a demo game at Games Workshop. And the guy was lovely, and I was like 12, 13 years old, and I had my friend at the time, and we played Warhammer. And we went through all of these tactics, we made the mistakes, we sort of orcs versus space marines, you know, a number one kind of rivalry of the time. And we played against each other, and we had a lot of fun, guided by that guy, guided by the rule book in the form of the guy, because he'd played obviously for a lot longer. So in the end, having these, you know, people who demo the games, teach people how to play the rules, really works. And I should know, because I worked that job. I did that job. I taught lots and lots and lots of kids and adults and everything in between how to play Pokemon TCG. I taught people how to play Pathfinder, an alternative to uh, Dungeons and Dragons, and love it. I taught people how to make their own characters, and how the mechanics work and the limits of the mechanics and how to push past them and all of this kind of thing. I help teach people these things. I help people sort of learn these games, and it's really beneficial to have that. It's really beneficial to have somebody who their job is to be a sort of liaison, a middleman or a middle person between the TCG stuff, board games, whatever you're trying to get people into, and the new person. Because if you don't, then nobody is the accessible point. Nobody is the middle person. Nobody is helping to get them through the door and sitting at the table and playing the games. And in the end, uh, the gaming scene lives and dies on multiple factors, as we've discussed, but mostly on the recruitment of new players, I think. And not because old players are, you know, they're dying or anything like that. No, it's mostly because old players move on to other things. Old players say, "Oh, I really like this," and they'll play it for a couple of years, and then they'll go, "I'm kind of sick of it now. I want to try something else." For an example, lots of Yu-Gi-Oh players are moving over to MTG. It's true. People don't want to believe it. They deny it as much as they want. It's true. It is actually true. Um, People are moving to MTG, and then they're moving from MTG to sorcery, and back and forth and in between. And even myself, I'm looking at Phyrexia All Will Be One, and I'm thinking, wow, that was a really good set. If I could get a booster box of that, or just buy the cards to make a deck, that would be really great. Um, People are jumping between games more and more now. The barrier is no longer quite so firm, I think, in terms of what people are playing, what people want to play. People are very game curious now, and I've made this point before. So facilitating that, making it so that there is an environment where they can just do that, I think is very important. And uh, game nights, especially daily, weekly, whatever it is, uh, game nights will help people, or like demo nights, uh, not the TF2 thing. God. Um, Demo nights of board games, tabletop games, all of these things, they're a fantastic way of teaching people how to play these games, getting them through the door, getting them to uh, pay the entry fee to the game, and painting events and things like that. All awesome ideas, all really good. So yeah, let's highlight the most important factors. So for running an LGS, I think the biggest thing that you've got to do is make sure your culture is right. You cannot have a culture of hyper competitiveness, not unless that's your specific scene. And if it is, you will be narrowing your customer base a lot. So if that's what you want to do, yeah, sure, but be prepared for toxic behavior and countering that toxic behavior. Uh, if if you spread your net wide and you're happy to have anybody through the doors, there are risks with that too. People who have a history, people who have a reputation, people who start fights. Um, so be prepared to deal with that. If you cater to only newbies and entry level people, you will end up in a situation where all of the competitive people feel shoved out. I've seen it happen before. It's not great. And if you are trying to make it so that you're appealing to everybody, but you are setting hard boundaries, we will accept this behavior, we will not accept this behavior, then I'm 90% sure, as long as you have the other factors, we'll recap over in check, you will be successful. For a while, economy pending, blah, 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 blah. You will have the good, solid foundation to start a business and to be successful. Now, if you don't have the finances bit sorted, if you're not finding middle grounds and you're not compromising, and you're saying, well, the market says that this is worth £650, then you're not a LGS, you're a supplier. You're a supplier with huge amounts of overhead. Sorry. But at the same time, if you're not looking at what the market's doing, full stop, then you're just blind. You've got to balance it. You've got to offer value for your customers. And I think actually Rudy does a really good job of this, with huge discounts and things like that, off the market value, giving people an opportunity to actually make a little bit of money from uh, their investments and gain huge amounts of profit, if that's what they're into. Vast majority of people just open packs. So appealing to people who just open packs I think you got to have the cheaper sets, the more affordable sets, the more financially accessible and gameplay wise accessible sets, rather than the insane, overpriced. Uh, what is that set? Collectors, Magic collectors packs. Uh, if you're just stocking premium, if you're just, you know, getting the most expensive stuff possible, then it's not going to sell unless you have an online presence and some popularity. So stock the right product, I guess, and know your audience, know who you are catering to, know the value of, and I guess the general like financial situation. Like read the room basically. Read the room of any given situation as much as possible, because reading the room is the only way really to sort of make it so that it's clear which direction to go and where to spend money, where to pull back as well. If you don't do this and you just have premium product or bulk products like sort of card sleeves and deck boxes uh, and all of this stuff, then you'll probably end up in a situation where you've got more deck boxes and things like that than anything else. And indeed, if you go with a really shit supplier, you will end up with too many ancillary, and this is what they're called, ancillary products, and you'll end up not being able to sell anything. And like binders are great. Like, yeah, sure, they sell. Just look on just look on TCG Simulator. They've actually got one or two things really right in that. Ancillary products sell like shit. Uh, they just don't sell through anywhere near as much as an Ascended Heroes set, uh, uh, anything like that. So know that you have to have the right kinds of product. Uh, on top of that, know that you can't appeal to the whales and the scalpers. Fast sales does not equal business success. If you are selling to keep the lights on, you don't have a business. You have essentially a giant loss machine. You put money in, you lose, and endlessly the cycle continues and continues. You just lose it all in the end, and nothing is profit. That ends up being really really sad to see. I've seen businesses go down like that, and it's a shame to see. But if they go down, that's how they go down. I've also seen, well, I think it's important anyway to make sure that you are actually looking after yourself and making some money from the business uh, as early as possible. Not necessarily taking a full blown wage, but if you're pouring more time and energy and effort into the business than anything else, I think, and you're doing that for years, and you're not doing anything to make it so that you are actually getting value out of it. You are just wearing yourself out, and that can be really detrimental. And that's how a lot of businesses end up. The uh, the owner of one business I know about, uh, they were having a really tough time life wise. Uh, Money was steady-ish from the business, and then they had an accident and no longer could run the business. And as a result, they had to close up shop. So having nobody who can run the business, they had to stop. That's the kind of thing that life can't control for, obviously, and it's a real shame. It's really upsetting. The story obviously can't get into it here, but yeah, it's just know that you have to take something from the business. You have to take some element uh, of value from it. And joy is not a currency. But I would say other people have made this point before. Uh, Having a good attitude, having a good value, and having a good sort of sense of values is really important because you are the person who's setting the tone for your establishment. You're the person who is going to uh, going to be the first face they see in there. And if they choose to stay and they choose to be around and spend money at your fine establishment, then you will be the person who they look to for their attitudes. I told you in the previous story about an example of one of the LGSs in my area that does not act like that, that is disrespectful. And the owner was putting huge amounts of the company's money into her own coffers to buy product for bulk, uh, which she was then making decks from by buying said bulk. Not good. Not a good look. And these attitudes trickle down. The clientele that you accept becomes shittier, and the money that you make from the situation um, will decrease. So there's like a lot of factors you've got to balance for having an LGS. And just to address where this comes from, this doesn't come from the perspective of a person who's, oh, I've owned an LGS for 35 years and I'm only 30. No. That kind of advice is, or one, in my example, impossible. But in reality, that kind of advice is rare because LGSs don't last very long. Truly, they don't. Card games don't last that long. And all of this is very, like, not every card game is Pokemon. Not every card game is Yu-Gi-Oh! Not every card game it's approaching like Digimon. Uh, Digimon's lasted a decent amount of time. Not everything is cut and dry, and that's why this is general advice, and it's why it's advice that's coming from a customer, from a person who has tried to balance the books uh, in terms of running a business, and as a person who has risked money to try and actually make a dice business. I did try to make a dice business. I had logos and everything and packaging, and the process sucked. So I know what it's like. I know what it's like to take massive losses every single month. And if my family was dependent on me for rent, for bills and things like that, and I was just taking loss after loss for like 2 years, I would have been screwed. Luckily, I stopped. And I guess that's the final closing point here. If it isn't working, you've got to stop. You've got to sit back and assess whether or not it is worth continuing this very expensive venture. And expense doesn't just come in the form of money. It comes in the form of time. It comes in the form of joy, your love of doing this. If you don't love it, if you don't love even the crappiest parts of it, don't do it. So I'm sorry if this is something of a reality check for some of you out there. There are a hell of a lot of businesses that are trying their very best to operate. Some of them are fronts for getting distributor access. I'm well aware they exist. Everybody's well aware that they exist, and except the distributors who don't count. Some of them are genuinely like passion projects. People saying, I'm sick of my 9 to 5. I'm sick of living the miserable life of a corporate worker, a person who is just bound to the chains of command. And I enjoy card games, and I want to leave. And I thought exactly the same thing with the dice stuff. I thought, well, it's messy, it's a bit gross, it's whatever, but I get to be creative. And I get to be paid for being creative eventually. No such luck. And I think I want to pass that on as general advice as well. Like, just be careful. Be careful with your time. Be careful with your energy. Be careful with what you're focusing on, what you're dedicating your life and your everything to. And because here's the thing, right? Corporations suck. I've done the corporate thing. I've like multiple times in multiple roles, and I've worked at multiple levels. Corporations do suck, but they pay. It's positive income at sacrifice for your job. But if you like to live and you like to be comfortable and you like to be happy, they're great for that because they let you have a lifestyle. They let you play games. They let you enjoy games. But if you are somebody who wants to run an LGS, realize that the games that you enjoyed are all of a sudden going to become your work. You're not going to have time to play games. It's the sacrifice that you are making to enable those other people who are working in the corporate jobs to play the games. And in the middle, you're hoping that they spend some money in your fine establishment. So it's not an opportunity to sit down and play with your friends. It's not an opportunity to make friends. It's an opportunity to turn the corporate shit into, well, your own brand of corporate. It's friendlier. It smiles more. It has a lot more overheads, though. It has a lot more things that you have to think about. It has a lot more money risk, financial risk, debt risk involved. And statistically speaking, you won't make it. But if you're willing to try anyway, good luck. And just remember these tips. Like I said, place these tips come from is a place of love, a place of seeing companies do things so wrong that you're like, how the hell did they operate as long as they did? Seeing companies go through hell as well, financial hell, hell in terms of like the clientele that they attracted, the constant circle of people who enter and leave and enter and leave as staff and as customers, and seeing a lot of this insanity unfold in what is supposed to be, for me, a person who is forced to do the corporate shit that nobody wants to do, that everybody's trying to escape. Uh, Seeing my refuges, the places that I'm going to escape this, maybe every couple of, every month, every couple of months, big gaps in between and things like that. Seeing all of these mistakes being made by LGSs and sitting there at night and thinking, well, how long is that going to last? And I do worry. And I'm a person who genuinely cares, and I'm a person who genuinely has worked as a part of some of these places, has helped, who's been on payroll, who's uh, moved from one place to another in terms of corporate jobs, who's uh, played multiple card games, multiple tabletop games, all of these things, and has substantial experience in it. Like I say, I've been playing Warhammer, or got into Warhammer from 13, 14, something like that. Possibly even 12, I'm not too sure. And I just worry about the future of it because um, this will be the closing because this is ridiculously long now. I see a lot of businesses making really risky decisions and making decisions that are not customer facing, that are uh, inherently bad for business and break trust. And they're doing the opposite of everything I just said in this video. And I just think, how long is that going to last? I see way more businesses right now, maybe about two or three, in my area that are doing fantastic. And I'm really proud and I hope they do really well. But I also do know that catering uh, to the wrong people is something that is always going, like Wales basically, is always going to be something that is a high risk venture. It's always going to be, it's not guaranteed income. But anyway, I've ranted it enough. Thank you for listening.